This is episode 182.
The Ultimate Deck Podcast. Need a show about outdoor living? This is where it's at with your hosts, Shane Chapman and Way Laurent. Thank you for tuning in. Now let the show begin. Yeah. The Ultimate Deck Podcast. Let's go.
Little snoozy today, Wade.
Yeah.
Little snoozy today.
Why are you so tired? Aren't you all rested?
You know what? Funny thing. So got back from my fishing trip 2 days ago, and you would think you'd be all rested after that. You're out in the middle of nowhere.
No.
There's no distractions.
I wouldn't think that. I've gone on fishing trips.
The average person might think that. My wife would think that. I come back fully rested.
You're so rested.
Because the first thing I got attacked with was, you're sleeping with the baby tonight because you just had 3 nights of sleep. Like,
Sorry, you got time off.
yeah. So she thought I was all ready to rock and roll and be up with the baby all night.
And
It's
what
like,
actually
yes,
happens is you have 2 old men who are 60 or 70 years old who snore so loud you can't sleep.
My dad was it was bunk beds. I've never slept in a bunk bed with my dad before. And I'd like to say it won't happen ever again, but I can't promise that.
It might happen
But you
now.
kind of hope it does, though, because the trip was great.
Yeah, and it turns out that actually the only person that complained about snoring the whole trip was my dad about me. Like,
That's rich.
Bum, bum,
I'm the old man now, Wade. I'm the old man in this relationship now. So here we go. So the night 2 and night 3, not bad. Slept not bad. The mattresses, I swear to Christ, they were the cardboard the mattress comes in, folded up. Like, they were not comfortable at all, which I had no problem with because you get a lot of sun.
You're roughing it.
Right. I'm fine. I'm fine with that. But the first night, so I was well aware of the weather. I looked it up before we went. It was warm, like
Planning
20
is everything.
Right.
That's
21, 22 degrees during the day. For our guest coming up, Dave, what is that? 80 something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
mid
Is he
80s.
American?
It is.
So decent, like perfect fishing weather. Not too hot, not cool. Nights would get down to around 6 or 8 degrees, which that's probably what, 45?
Yep, something like that.
50?
I'm just gonna say yes all the time. I don't know if it's
So
right or not.
you could tent in this weather. It'd be fine at night. Like, I have no problem with that. Sleeping bag, like, leave a hoodie on if you need to, if you're cool. Well, my brother-in-law thought it's going to get really cold at night, so I should stoke this fire and get it roaring before we go to bed.
No.
So he starts a fire in the camp. So the cabin's like, what, 400 square feet? Like, it's just a tiny little cabin. He gets this fire roaring at like 8 o'clock or something.
Yeah. Rookie move.
We all sit, we all sit
Rookie
on the beach having a fire. We go to bed. I'm on the top bunk where heat rises.
Yeah.
And I'm in the bedroom that's right beside the stove.
Yeah.
The wall,
it's
I'm
100
sure.
It's 104 where you're trying to sleep.
Oh, at least.
It's the thinnest wall.
We go to bed and I crawl up there. I'm like, holy piss. There's zero chance I'm sleeping here tonight. Like, it's not even possible. So anyways, I stripped down to nothing. Right? I got my never mind.
Yeah, okay.
I won't go there.
Okay.
My
don't
dad's
have the
sleeping
swear
below me.
thing on, so
Yeah. I get rid of the sleeping bag. I'm laying there just like nothing but my boxers. I throw
yeah.
on a movie I download on my phone to distract myself from the fact that I'm slowly cooking to death. I watch, like, I don't know, the intro credits. I either sleep or pass out from heat exhaustion. I'm not sure which yet. I wake up
from dehydration.
from something. I wake up what's probably like, I don't know, an hour later, half an hour later, I don't really know.
Yeah.
I wake up still holding my phone. I just passed out, still holding my phone, movie still playing.
That's how hot it was.
And I'm just dying up there. I can't even get a full breath. You know, when you get like so tired, you can't get a full inhale. I couldn't. It was so hot in there.
Because the air was so thick.
Right. I get off the bed, go out to the kitchen by the fire, and I walk out the door, and the heat radiating off this thing was unbelievable. Like, I sunburnt when I walked out of the room. I went out and stood on the deck at 12:30 in the morning in the middle of the northern Saskatchewan air in my boxers and stood there for 10 minutes, came back inside and contemplated what I was going to do. I was like, I can't go back in there. I will not sleep in there.
You should have left the door open. Nobody
I
else is
did.
supposed
I
to
left
sleep.
the door open for 10 minutes while I stood there. And then I was like, I'm going to have to haul my sleeping bag down and sleep on the tile floor. Like,
Yeah.
Or
I
out on the
can't go
deck.
in there.
Yeah,
On the
outside.
deck,
You'd be
something.
fine. Yeah.
So anyways, I leave a window open and I crawl back into bed. I took a wet cloth with me. I soaked a cloth, took it to bed with me, and like wiped myself down every 5 minutes to keep myself cool up. Like, it was just awful. Everybody else in there's out, sleeping, no problem. They wake up in the morning and they're like, how'd you sleep? Oh, yeah. So anyways, no fire the next 2 nights. It was perfect in there.
Who would build a fire to go to sleep?
That's what I said.
Don't you sleep when it's cool out? Like, I would rather it
I
was
do.
10 degrees,
Way
or
rather.
15 degrees to
So,
go to sleep.
Funny thing is, when I went to bed, I stripped down and I was like, boy, that fire might die and it might get cool. I'll hang my t-shirt and my hoodie on the corner of the bed in case I need it
Just in
tonight.
case.
Holy piss, boys.
Wipe the sweat off.
It was, yeah. I woke up and soaked. When I went back to my bed, I laid down. It was cold and wet in my sleeping bag. I either pissed myself or I sweated to death.
You probably pissed yourself to keep cool.
Right. That would have been preferable. I would have preferred that. So I went fishing. That was the worst part of my trip. The rest of it was really, really good. You went to go shoot bears. How'd that go?
Just a bear. I just went to shoot a bear.
And did you shoot a bear?
Yes.
You shot the bears?
I shot one bear,
Or you shot da bear?
but I didn't get it.
You shot at the
What?
bear.
Nope, I hit it. So I have.
What, bear was like cute, walked away?
This is what happened. So Dave, do you hunt?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm an avid fisherman, though.
Yeah. Story just died right there.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Move on.
I shot a bear and I didn't find it. So I was bow hunting or setting up to bow
Oh,
hunt.
yeah, that's right. You didn't use a gun.
I was not using a gun. So I went to hunt a black bear with bow. And so I set up one location, a tree stand, got it all set up. We're ready to go. And then we were going to go set up another bait station because in Canada, you're allowed to bait. And in certain spots in the US, you're not allowed to bait black bears. But in Canada, we have quite a few and we're allowed to. So I drive to this. Tyler and I are on our way to a location where we're going to set up another bait station. And I see a bear just standing out in the open, and they're not supposed to be out in the open during the day. They're supposed to be kind of nocturnal. So anyways, I was like, oh, there it is. Let's see if we can just walk up to this bear. So we check the wind.
Because that's what I say.
Every time I've seen a bear, I'm like, I should go pet it.
I should go walk up to that bear.
Well, I had an arrow. I was ready. So the wind was not in our favor. The bear caught our scent and took off into the forest. And I was like, okay, well, I could probably sneak around. And so we run down to the water, we sneak around.
This sounds like the best plan.
I get tucked into a spot where I think the bear should be. And then I kind of walk back out into the opening. Don't see it. I was like, well, I'm going to continue on. I'm going to keep going south and then I'll turn around and come back. And then I will be on the right side of the wind. I'll be downwind and the bear won't be able to smell me. So I get past it.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Bears going to
exactly.
smell me no matter where I go now.
So they're super blind, right? Bears have like terrible vision, but excellent noses. And so I'm like, I found a spot to work my way back towards where I think the bear is. And all of a sudden, boom, he like comes out of the bushes 100 yards away, like steps out. And I'm like, perfect. This is exactly where I want to be. And I like crouch down and the bear knew I was there, but couldn't see me or smell me. And I could tell because it was like walking and then it would stop and it would lift its head up and it would sniff and wave around and then like down. Anyways, this bear walked straight at me, which is not good for bow hunting because you can't shoot the arrow through the skull. They're too strong, right?
Right.
And so at 7 yards,
So you shouldn't have been able to miss.
he turned and I pulled the arrow out of the quiver and loaded the bow and was shaking because he was not as far
Sorry,
as those
let me-
trees away.
Hey, so
you saw a bear 100 yards away.
Yep.
Bear walked you up to within 7 yards of you.
Yep.
Presumably that took a little bit of time.
Yep.
And you didn't grab your arrow until the bear was 7 yards away.
Right. Because at 90, he could have turned and went back into the bushes.
Yeah, you'd hate to be prepared and not need
Well,
it.
like, so no. I was prepared. So
he
anyways,
had arrows, Shane.
I was like shaking. And then the bear lines up behind a tree. So I'm like, okay, get the arrow loaded. And then I draw and I stand and the bear turns and starts to walk east, which is great because now he's broadside. And I was like, perfect. I
You got
have
a
a
shot.
chance. And he walks between two trees and there's like a little 4-foot opening. And I was like,
Robin
we go.
Hood time.
and I let the arrow fly and I hit him 100% because the bear like spins around, bites at his side, takes off, runs into the forest. And so then you wait, you sit there. And we're like, okay. I waited 10 minutes. Then I walk up to where I had shot him. The arrow went clean through. The tip was all broken. Arrow's covered in blood and there's blood all over the ground. I was like, got him. Excellent. This is so good. I tracked for 4 hours.
Oh my God.
And then all of a sudden the blood was just gone, like just gone. And so when you're tracking, you like follow, tie ribbons on, make your mark, and then you can look back and you can kind of see a line that they're walking, right? They just walk. And so when I ran out of blood, I was like, well, this is fine. Then you do circles. You walk a 1 foot circle, then you walk a 2 foot circle, then you walk a 3 foot circle, and you like, because they can go and then just turn sideways, right? And so you walk and lost it. Like he's just gone. So I went back and I talked to Tyler, and I think I missed a little bit left. Like I think I didn't get right through the ribs, but the head was all broken, like as if it had hit bone.
It hit bone or something.
That's what I thought. So anyways, once I got back to the cabin and I was like thinking about this, I was like, I don't know that was maybe the smartest plan to like follow after an injured bear. Like the whole shooting it with a bow, I didn't seem like that. To me, that was
didn't seem scary.
Very,
the bear 100 yards away walking directly towards
that
you
didn't seem to scare me for some
weapon.
Reason. Yeah, that didn't worry me. But then when I like reflected upon following an injured bear, I was like, well, I probably shouldn't have done that. I probably shouldn't have followed the injured bear
all the way into the forest for 4 hours.
Yeah. So anyways, so it didn't work perfectly. I got a shot off. It was a pretty good shot. That's the first animal I've hit with a bow. It was a good shot, but it was not a great shot. It is an awful feeling when you give up. That's the worst part. So I had hit a moose one time with a rifle from a long ways away and tracked it for 14 hours and lost it in the forest as well. And I like could not sleep the next day. I just like, I hate.
Probably because your cabin is so goddamn hot.
Yeah.
Me neither, Wade.
So anyways.
All right. Well, there's a running joke around here that Wade doesn't actually hunt, he chases. And so the legend continues.
The legend continues.
Great story. Well, now that we're talking about fishing and bear hunting and everything else.
What manly thing did you do, David?
We've got, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but David Settlemyer from
that's right.
is joining us today.
Got it.
So how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great.
Good. Thanks for
glad to hear the stories. It sounds like you guys are enjoying your life. I just work all the time, so one of these days I'll try and have a story for you.
Yeah, we do work a lot, just not the last 4 or 5 days. We called her quits for about that much time. If you would like to come up to Saskatchewan, you probably have better luck catching fish with me than you do getting bears with Wade, but take your pick.
This is true.
So, Dave, you are a deck builder. Whereabouts are you located? Your company's called LS Underground, but where are you from? Who are you? What's your family life look at? Tell us a little bit about you.
So we're based out of Longmont, Colorado. It's about 20 miles north of Denver, about 15 miles east of Boulder. So we're right on the line of the mountains. Great area over here. You know, I don't know if you've ever been. Probably not. Most people haven't. They all say they want to go to Colorado.
You're correct.
I'd go.
We would say that. Yeah, we want to, but have not been.
Yeah, no, it's great. Fishing's really good here too. So is the hunting. People come from around the country. So you guys will probably enjoy it if you ever get down here.
Yeah, elk hunting. There's apparently really good elk hunting in that area. Mountains.
So, family life. You know, I'm a single father, 3 kids. Been doing that job for about 8 years by myself. Quite the struggle, especially with trying to run a deck building company. But it all works out.
Are they old enough that you can put them to work yet?
You know, my son is. He's 15 now, and it's summertime here. And out of school, I told him, hey, you're going to have to come to work with Dad and start helping out, try and make some money for himself and make some money for me too.
Yeah. I have a 15-year-old as well. I tried to get him to come work with me, like with us here at the store. He will not. He's applying for jobs everywhere else. He refuses to come work for his dad. He's like, nope, you're going to make me clean bathrooms and sweep. And it's like, yep.
He'd rather flip burgers. And...
Yeah, that's entry-level work.
That's what I said, right?
But like, in all fairness, he probably shouldn't be here. He showed up for a week in flip-flops the whole week.
Yeah.
Go outside, and he was just like, well, I only got flip-flops. And I was like, be very careful.
Yeah. I'm curious where the name came from. That's what I want to get to first. LS Underground. What's the LS part and why underground?
So we started as a landscape construction company. And, you know, when I started the company, I wanted something other than Dave's Landscape, you know, or A+ Landscape. It just wasn't very original. You know, Landscape Underground, it has quite a bit of meaning to it. So in landscape and with general construction, it's the foundation. It's the underground stuff that you don't see that's really the most important part of the project. You can build anything that you want above ground, but if the structure fails from down below, you've already started the project off on the wrong foot. LS Underground as well. Underground being kind of like the underground music scene, where some really good people out there that are really unknown. My goal was never to be a big company with multiple crews. I wanted to stay small, and I wanted to be in that underground market. And I feel like I've represented the company well over the years with the way that it started as landscape, and then the structure of that, the lesser known company, and then evolving that into what it's become now. We've only been building decks full time since 2019, and we had a pretty rough 2018 season. And my foreman came up to me and said, "Hey, we're really set up to build decks. We've got some really good tools. Why don't we just focus on that?" And it's hard to go out and sell decks as a landscape company, and so we just abbreviated the name to LS, so that we didn't have to start new bank accounts and start a new company from scratch. We could just continue on with what we were doing, but just kind of hide the name of landscape. And the truth about it is now that we don't do any kind of landscape work anymore. So that's just kind of how the company came about and the name of it.
Interesting. So decks since 2019. How long before that? Like, how long has the company existed as a landscape company before?
So I started this version of the company in 2014, and that's when my ex-wife and myself split up, and I ended up with custody of the kids.
Okay.
So we had a split up at that time. My previous company had to dissolve because of the divorce, and this is the company that I started again after that time frame.
Gotcha. And the company before was also landscaping? Is that right? So,
yeah. So I've been in the landscape business and outdoor living space for a little over 20 years now.
Okay. And you mentioned you wanted to, kind of your goal is always to keep it kind of small. Presumably, like usually when people want to do that, it's because they want to control the quality and keep the quality really high, and they don't want the hassle of the multiple crews and everything else. Exactly. How many employees do you operate with then? Is it yourself that's on site doing things and then others with you, or?
Yeah, it's myself on every project, and I usually have a foreman and a laborer, just some guy that can keep things rolling while I'm off-site, whether it's material acquisition, consultations, things like that. But generally, I'm just operating with two other guys besides myself.
And so you are the gopher at that point, right? If there's something, you're missing something, you're going to get it, but you've just got the two guys who can keep things rolling. So,
well, business is all about relationship, and relationship with my suppliers is a very key part of the company and how it operates. I feel like because of those relationships, I'm also able to acquire materials where other guys have to wait for those. I get special treatment with will call orders, things like that. So I like to keep those relationships strong.
Right. Smart.
Yep.
So what does your process look like from then? Since it seems like you're kind of likely involved at every step of the way. What does it look like for LS Underground from the time, like how do you get your customer right through to when the job's complete? What are all those steps? How do you manage all that?
It's a challenge, really. Being small and wanting to focus on that portion of the company and staying small means that I have all of that responsibility. We get most of our clientele is referral based, if not all of it. It starts through our suppliers. Weekend warriors that want to get into projects realize that it's too much for them, and they reach out and ask for a referral of a contractor. Previous clients referring to friends, family, stuff like that. And it's actually worked out really well. I think that the referral portion of that has kept me in business for about 20 years. It's probably only been since I've been focusing on building decks that I've been getting the majority of my referral work through my suppliers. So that's been really key to focus in the market that way and be able to bring in those kind of clientele. Then I meet with the clients, get an idea of what they're looking for. And, usually I would take on just about any project, as most contractors that need work are going to do. But when I started focusing on what my goals were with the company, that's when I started really weeding people out as far as the type of projects that I was looking for and the type of projects that matched with that clientele as well. So I look at it when I'm meeting with a client as it's a dual interview. Mm-hmm. They're interviewing me as a contractor, but really I'm interviewing them as a client. And I've had a lot of success with it. So then it moves into design, and again, with focusing on my personal goals, I try to design some pretty crazy stuff. And regardless of what the clients have asked for, I try to stay within the basic scope of area, location, size, and shape. But I try and throw some wild stuff out there and see who bites on it.
That's awesome.
You have certainly done some of the most creative stuff I've ever seen. That's for sure. And we'll get into that a bit more in a minute here. But what are your personal goals then, and how do those come to be, and why are those?
I wanted to be a champion builder.
Yeah.
You know, and that comes with reputation and sales ability, things like that. When you have an ability to present yourself to a client in a way that sets you apart from all the rest of your competition, it's certainly in your favor. And when I can use some of like the NADRA awards and those kind of things that I've achieved to highlight myself as the contractor, the creative person, the person that's going to go above and beyond on a quality standpoint, has been very beneficial to me. So my goal really was, you know, I was a failed contractor most of my career, you know, and it wasn't until 2018 or 2019 where I finally decided that, you know, this is my real last opportunity. Being a single father, I had to do something for my kids. I had to be successful, and I had to find a way to make that happen. So, you know, that's kind of where it all started, about 2018, 2019. And I feel like I've achieved the majority of my goals.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I know. I watched from afar because we didn't make the trip down there, but I watched the last NADRA Awards ceremony from whatever they were presenting it on Zoom or whatever it was, and it was like, it was just constantly LS Underground, LS Underground. I'm like, who the hell? Like,
Well,
Out of nowhere.
what is the deal with this guy? He's just up there constantly.
That's exactly what my goal was. My goal was, you know what, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to win every award.
Yep.
I'm going to just get myself on the map, and I'm going to have everybody sitting back saying, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah. Was that the
And I
first one you
achieved
had been in? Just a special?
No. So, you know, I didn't even know about NADRA or the NADRA Awards until 2019. And I had completed a couple of projects that year that I thought, you know, they might qualify. You know, let's just throw something in there and see what happens. And there's one deck in particular that I did. I thought I was going to win something on it, but I didn't even get a mention, which was really strange to me because I thought it was my best project. But it was literally on the last day of the entry deadline, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to throw some projects in there and see what happens. So in 2019, I think we were in Kentucky that year. I ended up winning 2 awards, and I thought, excellent, that's super cool that I just won 2 awards on projects, just everyday projects. What would happen if I tried? What if I tried to win awards specifically? What would happen? And then 2020, you know, every project that I did was meant to be an award-winning project, and we put all of our focus and all of our effort into making that happen. And it was every single project that we did that year won an award.
Isn't that crazy how that that mindset at the start of the year changes you? Right?
Absolutely. I went home from the 2019 NADRA award, not home. I went back to the motel that night, and I designed my first award-winning project for the 2020 season. And I hadn't even left Kentucky yet because, you know, I had just seen all the other projects that won. So it was fresh in my mind of what I had to go above and beyond to beat. And it was literally that night that I began the journey of winning all of these NADRA awards.
I think that's my favorite part about the NADRA awards is that they just drive everybody to be better, right? And it's like, if you don't win, what happens is you walk away from there mad. Like, you're mad that day, but then the next day you're better because
Yes.
you have to be. If you value the award and you want to participate in that in that arena, then you have to be better. So
True.
What,
So all it took was effort. It really did. It was the mindset of,
yeah,
I have to design something above and beyond. I have to implement the design better than anybody else is going to be able to. And it's that Johnny Huck mentality, is that I'm the best MFer around, you know?
Yep.
And that's what you have to think. And as long as you think that that's true, you can achieve that. So it's calling it out into existence.
Yeah, so good.
What was your haul in the 2020 awards? How many awards?
10.
10.
Yeah. So 6 first place, 4 third place awards, and that included first place People's Choice.
That's a cool one to get. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And then, you know, so of course that continues on. And here recently, I just walked with another 7 awards this year. So I really stacked them up in 2 years, and I'm grateful for NADRA and certainly TimberTech, my main supplier, who I use for supporting me to be able to actually achieve this.
Yep.
We'll see what happens this year.
That's good.
Do you find that those NADRA, do you use those NADRA awards in your everyday marketing? Do they help you to get more jobs? Do you find
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So when the 2020 season started and it was my goal to specifically compete for NADRA awards, I had already had the previous 2 from 2019. I got a 2nd place award and a 3rd place award. And I utilized those to let my customers know I was going after that elusive 1st place award.
Right.
And that I intended to build them a 1st place project. And that's how I sold all of those projects for the 2020 season, was specifically using those NADRA awards as the setting for what I was trying to achieve.
What a great mental play that is onto your customer, right? Because now your customer's like, oh, well, I didn't really want that bench, but I know what you're trying to do. So, and it allows you to start to put more of your creativity onto the deck. And they're like, no, that's okay. I know what he's doing. And I want my deck to win too.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that is because they know, and they're watching it throughout the construction and through the build, seeing it evolve. And the excitement is incredible when they come home from work every day and see what we've accomplished through the day. You know, everybody brings out beers. Everybody leaves a cooler of Gatorades. We get catered more than what we ever have in our career. People just delivering pizzas to us. It's like, well, we didn't even order these, you know? So it's really cool to know that, but it's not for everybody. It really isn't. And there's a lot of people that they just want that 10 by 12, and I have to walk away from those. You know, to end up with the 10 awards in 2020, I believe that was 5 separate projects, but it took probably 25 consultations to find those 5 people that were willing to play along with what my goals were.
Right. How many projects would you do in a year on average? Like are you there for quite a while on each job, or?
Yeah, certainly. And it's evolved to even less projects, unfortunately, because it's really difficult to go to a project day after day after day. You know, but last year we did 6, 2020 we did 7, and 2019 we probably did 14 projects in 2019. But again, the complexity has grown. The size of the projects have grown, and that just means that we can only produce smaller amounts of projects.
So 6 to 7 jobs, and you're winning. You're winning 7 to 10 awards. You're winning awards on every single job you're building.
Every single project. That's the goal. And then I think I figured out kind of how to win an award on every project. Is you can't go into there thinking that you're going to win a specific category. Every deck has to qualify for multiple categories.
Right.
You know, so if I'm building a project, it needs to win because of its shape. It needs to win because of its flooring pattern, its lighting scheme, its railing. It needs to be able to qualify for all of those. And that's the only way to guarantee that a project is going to win, is if it qualifies for multiple entries.
Right.
I won 7 this year, but that was out of 22 entries.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But every project won something.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I put this up fairly late, but I did ask for a couple questions from people on Instagram if they cared to ask you anything. We got a couple comments. One from Henhouse Decks. Not a question, just says they love you. Love LS Underground. Mitcon Decks, however, asks, where does the inspiration come from for the unique designs you build?
You know, my little girl, she's 11 now. And when she comes out and meets my customers, she tells my customers all the time, you know, this deck was my idea. And it's really cute because she does really inspire me. But I'll take a comment from just about anybody. you know, and it'll spark my imagination. You know, like what if we did something that had multiple colors, you know, like the patchwork deck. I did a lot of those in 2020, which I'm trying to get away from, but it seems to be kind of my style. Multiple colors, multiple patterns, but I try to pick ideas up from different people, you know, just different concepts. I try to think of it as a concept instead of a design and see how it evolves from there. But a lot of it, how it evolved was through my current design program and mistakes. My grandfather told me when I was a little kid, he's like, a true artist can turn his mistake into a masterpiece. So I've never been scared to actually try something new, to fail at it, to make a mistake, because if you can be creative when you're trying to fix that mistake, a lot of the times it'll end up being more or better than what it was intended. But it truly is. It's a couple of my concepts have been mistakes during the design process that actually turned out to be pretty cool.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did you have your daughter at the awards as well? She went up on stage with you?
Oh yeah, that's true. The last 2 years I had her with me.
Yeah, I remember seeing that too. I thought that was cool. Really kind of like a, I don't know, endearing a moment to see your daughter go up there with you.
Hey, you know, she takes credit for the design, so she's got to be there.
Okay, now I've got to ask you, because I remember the one that first caught my eye was the epoxy slab, tree slab.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell you call that thing.
Crazy.
Well, the name of that project is Forest Floor.
Well, that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
I remember watching those awards, and I think it was just like, I think I was just watching the slideshow of the different projects kind of like rolling through whatever, and that one kind of flashed, and it was like, it just caught my eye because it was so freaking different from anything else. Like, I've seen some amazing shit come through the NADRA awards, but that one caught my eye because it was like, whoa, what is that?
It almost didn't even look like a deck anymore.
No, it was so strange at a glance. I had to go back and kind of look at it, and then it was like, holy crap. So, like, tell me the story of that. How did you come up with this concept to...
Well, it's not his concept. It was his daughter.
How did your daughter come up with it? Yeah, whoever came up with it. Like, how does that come to be?
That one was mine. You know, my daughter can't take any credit for that one. You know, because we started as a landscape construction company, and you know, then again it evolved into the outdoor living space. We started primarily with patio, and we did a lot of pavers, a lot of flagstone, a lot of stuff like that. And it was in 2011 we did the Denver Home and Garden Show, and it's just something that came up. We needed to fill some space in our booth, and we were out of materials. We didn't really have anything that we could throw in there. You know, we had all these trees laying around, and we just started cutting slices, and we turned it into a patio. So it started originally as a patio, and we got rave reviews from it during the Home and Garden Show. We actually won Best of Show for our booth that year, which that was a cool honor. But the way that we had to build it on a plywood frame in order for quick installation, basically, so we could get it to the show and set it up. And so technically it was a deck. And when people commented on it, they referred to it as a deck. I didn't know, you know, we weren't building decks at that time, but that concept was always still there with me, that I wanted to figure out how to turn it from a patio into a deck. And, you know, it took years and years for me to really figure it out. But previously in the year, we'd actually built a stamped concrete deck that had a radiant heat system in the flooring, and we utilized a rubberized subfloor for that. And that kind of clicked in my head, like, hey, you know what, if we do this, we'd have to set everything in epoxy. If we were to do that, but that's the only way that we can really fasten all of the wood rings down if we were to build it. So, you know, it kind of just evolved, and it fell into place right at the right time. And all the lighting that went on underneath that was really an afterthought. And it was after we got the framing done that I decided, if we were going to use all this epoxy to help encapsulate everything, let's throw all that light underneath there too. So we threw thousands and thousands of LED light strips, or LED lights through light strips down underneath, encapsulated all of that in epoxy, and then did all of our wood ring work on top of that. When we fastened everything down, we actually did that at night so that we could have the lights on, and we knew that when we were sinking screws, we weren't penetrating light strips. So that was pretty neat. But,
Like your
um,
average deck build. You know?
yeah, it was something completely different. And, you know, I don't build wood, and I'm against deforestation and tropical hardwoods. And I thought if I ever built a wood deck, that's all that I would do. And I was able to find some really unique wood stuff that's not current or not typically used on decks. So we use black walnut, peach, Russian olive, birch. You know, so they were all hardwoods. You know, and qualified, they were all harder than redwood, harder than cedar. You know, so that's you know, how I kind of formulated what we would use in there, but the colors just worked out great. It wasn't until literally the day that we were cutting all the log slices that I came across the black walnut. At that point, I already had the deck sold and already had the concept done and the frame built, but I didn't even know what we were going to use for wood on the project. We were cutting log slices, and it was like a 4-day process doing that. But during that time, we could hear a chainsaw like 3 blocks away. There was some company cutting down trees in another property, and I needed more wood. So I ran over there. I said, "Hey, I'll help you guys clean this up if I can get some of your wood." And they're like, "No, sorry, man. This is black walnut." And I played stupid, and I was like, "Hey, you know, what's that?" And he's like, "This tree's worth $20,000 at the mill. I can't let you have any of it." So then, you know, I was driving by maybe an hour later, and I saw that they were struggling. They actually had a climbing rope attached to the top of the tree to pull it a certain direction, and their climbing rope snapped. And I had one in the back of my truck, and I said, here you guys go, and just handed it off to him. And he said, "Cool, thank you." I went back like an hour later to see how it went. He's like, "Thank you, you saved us with that rope. Go ahead and load up a couple of logs." And I was like, "Oh man, that's so awesome." So I ended up with that black walnut for free, and it was just the perfect color to contrast everything else.
That's so cool.
So
So
it was neat.
Wild.
did you have to, or did you consider, did you have to treat the slabs in any way to make sure they don't kind of patina over time with sun through the epoxy? I don't imagine it would, like, they probably will kind of gray out over time, will they? Or did you treat them in some ways?
You know, I'm sure that there's going to be a little bit of fade to the colors and whatnot, but it's kind of an unknown too.
Yeah.
Kind of just like the lights with the project. You know, I told the clients, once we install these lights, there's no replacing it. There's no fixing it. So there's a lifespan to that, you know, so use the lights sparingly. Don't turn them on every night, just only during parties or things like that, you know, to conserve that longevity. But as of right now, we're 2 years after building the project. The colors are still very vivid.
Very cool. And so did you pitch that concept to a bunch of people, or did you happen to find, was the first one you showed that to, like, yep, let's do it? Or how?
Yeah, first one. Yeah. And everybody thinks, man, you know, that has to be in a certain neighborhood or certain house style. Yep. No, it's just like a $400,000 house. I don't know what your housing market's like there, but that's just quite average here. It's a little smaller town, like an old farming town, you know, so it's not anywhere special. And yeah, they jumped all over it.
What have they, you must have heard from those homeowners since then, like since they got that done. Have they shared any feedback with you from people who have kind of come over and visited and been like, "Oh my God, look at this deck"?
Oh yeah, certainly. Like all coworkers, all friends, everybody in the neighborhood has been over to that house and seen it. When they have the lights on at night, it illuminates the entire back of their house. We actually, when we took the drone footage, we went up as high as we go, as like 250 feet, and the entire house, the whole yard lit up from 250 feet. So you could probably see it from an airplane.
Awesome.
Would you?
I was like, "Are you like an artist and you won't do that again?"
Yeah, that's exactly what my question.
Never.
If somebody
No.
wants that deck, are you going to say no?
No, it never happened again. I'd only do everything once. So everything I've ever built in my career has been a one-time deal. That's part of the money process too. You know, I lose a lot of money, or I don't make a lot of money, because everything that I do, I've never done before, and everything that I do, I'll never do again.
Right. That's cool. And so do you tell people that up front? Does a homeowner know, like, you've got exclusivity on this concept kind of thing?
Yeah, I tell my clients that they won the contractor lottery.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. Another design aesthetic I noticed in looking at some of your pictures is that you tend to integrate boulders or rocks or stones, not just around, but sometimes like right into the deck. What's the idea there? How?
Yeah, so that's just a transition from my landscape background. It's something it's difficult to do.
Yep.
And so my goal is to do what is the most difficult thing that you can do. And as a landscaper, I got into that because I feel more at one with nature, just in general, natural materials. And so boulders are a big part of what I've always worked with. And I think I don't see a lot of that incorporated into decks. I see that into patios, but that is what I believe helps to set me apart from my competition, as well as having that background in a different trade that I could help to influence my current builds with.
I've always loved that look for sure, for the exact reason you said it. It just transitions between spaces. So like, even though it's a very hard material you're using there, it just kind of softens that transition. It's not like hardline deck drops off to grass or to whatever.
Exactly. It's trying to blend the entire outdoor living space together as one cohesive project versus a landscape and then a patio and then a deck and then a porch cover. One of my current projects that I won with, I won porch cover of the year here recently, and I actually have boulders that come through the landscape, through the patio, through the deck, and up into the columns themselves. So I really took those boulders and grew them through the ground all the way up into the air.
That is so cool.
Yeah, thank you.
What is there any material that's off limits to you? Like when you're sitting down to create a design, what materials are in your head that you're kind of like, this is my paint tray. These are the materials I have to work with. Like, is anything off limits?
Yeah, no, there's nothing off limits. In fact, I have several concepts that I feel are, guaranteed NADRA award-winning projects based on the material usage. And I don't want to really go into it, but if you just look at the history of what I've done through NADRA, I've won with composites, I've won with wood, I've won with a stamped concrete deck. I do pavers and tile and stone and all of that. So if I can incorporate all of that or some of it together into a project, I'd love to see what the results would be. But there really is nothing that's off limits. I'm looking into different metals right now that can be used for surfaces. Imagine a steampunk deck, what you can do with the railing if you're thinking about that concept, and how you can incorporate those things. We'll see if that comes to fruition.
That's awesome.
Yeah, some like copper would be so good, right? Like
copper, brass, aluminum. You mix all that stuff up, and you do some creative things with some large cogs and some different railing layouts. To stay within code, still certainly, but to create something that you've just never seen before.
Yeah.
I've noticed I believe you seem to offer a 3D design with every project you do. You deliver that to the homeowner. How much? And I think you use Structure Studios. I don't know if that's still the case, but that's what we're using.
Yeah, that's the case.
How much do you have to fight that program to deliver the shit that you're trying to do? Because you're using it like the program wouldn't be like, what deck board would you like to use? Would you want to use chunks of black walnut? Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's really it. I have to force the design to do for the program to do what I want it to do. So, a lot of the times the deck is not drawn out of the deck category or the deck options. It's drawn out of just different categories, different things. So it is the designability and my knowledge of the program and my knowledge of it's a lot of thinking outside of the box too, with different paint schemes. There's that option paint tool, where you don't have to use the default settings and materials that they have. You can Google pictures and you can upload photos, and I can make the design look like what I want it to look like. But yeah, Structure Studios, it's been a great program for me to be able to use my creativity with.
Sure. You mentioned
the 3D stuff too. I mean, it sets it off. If I can send a video link to a client, I don't even have to present anything. They can sit on their couch and watch a YouTube link on their 75-inch TV and see their entire project.
Yeah. You also show that it certainly helps the process, especially when you're doing stuff that is literally impossible for somebody else to envision.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does somebody else even get that in their head, right?
Yep.
People have
I'm going to take this rock and I'm going to put it in the deck. They're like, no.
most people have a hard time just like figuring out what their AZEC coastline 10 by 12 is going to look like. Well, can you like, let alone the stuff you do. Do you still offer the virtual reality things? I saw that you were kind of doing that for a bit with the Oculus headsets. Has that helped you? Is that something you're still doing? Do people?
So I was doing that pre 2020. I started using Structure Studios in 2019, and of course, nobody wanted to touch anything that somebody else had to touch in 2020. And so that kind of phased out. I still offer that, but people seem to be satisfied with the YouTube link and being able to watch a video run through of their project. I think that it's more convenient for people. Plus, they can share that with friends, family, neighbors, things like that, and they can receive input from the people that they care about when they're trying to make a decision for their project. But the 3D video is where it's at. It's there's a lot of guys that throw out a 3D image from a couple of different angles of the project, but it still never does justice to what you're trying to do. So I try to give everybody at least a 3-minute pan through video, and I include music and all that stuff. I'll actually ask people, what do you like, country music? Do you like rock? And whatever. And I'll try to incorporate that kind of a music tone in with their video to make it entertaining.
It's like a psychology hack right there too.
Right.
Yes.
There's a lot of that that goes into it.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned that you work with TimberTech. I don't know if that's exclusively, but do you have preferred material manufacturers, like your hardscape and your railing and your deck boards? Obviously, like, is there certain manufacturers you try to? To me, the rest of everything you're saying is going to tell me no. Like, you're just kind of wide open. But are there certain brands you like to work with?
I exclusively work with TimberTech. And there's reasons for it too. TimberTech has treated me pretty nice the last couple of years. They pay attention to my projects. They come out and visit me all the time. They take me out to dinner. They do a lot for me. I've got a TimberTech hat on right now. They keep boxes stocked for me. I don't get that from anybody else. But we also live here in Colorado. We have a Class A fire rating requirement just 15 miles from here, where the only products you can use are Class A fire rated. And for the longest time, AZEC was the only thing that qualified. Right. And AZEC's a tricky product to use here in my area too, but because I'm so familiar with it, I feel like I've mastered the product, and it's very easy to work with. It's lightweight. We've been doing a lot of bending lately. It bends very nice, very smooth, and so it is my preferred product. But as far as railing and framing materials, things like that, it's just whatever my supplier has in stock. Barrett Outdoor Livings, their RDI railings, Fortress railings, Cinch. I'll go back and forth between all of that stuff, from a cost standpoint or from what I need the product to do. If we're bending railing, I'm definitely going to use Cinch pre-manufactured iron railing because of the thickness of the gauge. It rolls smoother with less kinks than a Fortress railing will. But if I'm looking for something lightweight and fast, Fortress is certainly there and available for me.
Right. Yeah, so like you said at the start, it's all relationship, right? So Timber sends hats and takes you over for dinner. It's like, just pay attention. That's
all that I asked ever.
Right.
It's like, hey, I'm doing really cool stuff with your guys' products. I just want a little bit of recognition and a little bit of appreciation for it, and I know me and Shane have gone back and forth on Facebook a couple of times, but they're the only ones that have ever reached out to me after winning a NADRA award.
Awesome.
Like, they're my build partner, and they congratulate me. They take me out to dinner, I get perks, but the phone hasn't even rang from anybody else.
Yeah. And AZEC's a fantastic board, right?
It sounds like you're using AZEC stuff exclusively from them. You're not using their composites. Or
they change their colors and their lines so often. It's hard.
That's great for a guy like you.
No, it is to a certain point. But I like the lightweight aspect of the AZEC and the fact that it's easy to work with. All composites weigh the same. They're extremely heavy, and I'm getting older, and because I work on all my projects, the last thing I want to do is carry 5 tons of deck boards from the front yard to the backyard,
Especially like that legacy line, right? Like, you start hauling that legacy line around, man, that stuff is wild.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do. The current project that we're on, we're using the legacy line, and it's either the legacy line or the AZEC line is pretty much what we use. We don't use any of the other lines.
If somebody came to you and they had a board picked out from another manufacturer, would you tell them, I don't work with that? Like, is it exclusive, your relationship with them?
Yes. Yeah. I actually will steer them over to TimberTech.
Okay. I did have this question down because it was something that you and I chatted about recently on Facebook about, and we're kind of in it now anyway, about how you kind of feel about, getting recognition from manufacturers, or how you feel about other contractors around the United States or Canada that are getting recognition from their manufacturers, sometimes on a larger scale than maybe yourself would, or a Scott Kelly would, or those kind of guys. So just to dive into that a little bit more, because we chatted it through and I kind of jumped in and was like, well, you're not getting it because you're not putting yourself out there on social media. Like, that's why they want those guys. It's not that they're building the coolest shit. There's no doubt that you're building the coolest shit. Like, your stuff like is cooler than probably anybody that's building out there.
Well, thank you.
But yet you're not getting the exposure and recognition from these guys. So does that piss you off a little bit, or do you understand why, or like, what's your feeling on that?
What is the prestige of winning a NADRA award? Who is that prestigious to? It certainly is to me, because I put the effort in to win that award. It's prestigious for all of the other guys that put the effort in to do that. And where it came about, in regards to sponsorship, Trex actually sponsored one of my first awards. This is before I was exclusive with TimberTech. And I thought, great, I'm being sponsored. They even reached out to me and told me they were going to sponsor me. We get through the whole awards process and everything, and I don't even get a handshake. And, I talked to the guy from TimberTech that reached out to me, and I was like, hey, you guys said you were sponsoring me. What does that mean? Like, oh, we just wanted to get your award. If you won an award, we just wanted to come up there on stage and grab it with you. So is that not prestigious to them too? Why are they there?
Yeah.
Piggybacking my awards if it's not prestigious to them. And what is a sponsorship? If you're going to sponsor me and you're going to support my project, what are you doing for me besides just stealing my glory or piggybacking on me? And so I feel like when you're winning a prestigious award and you're doing something and you're showcasing that manufacturer's products in a way that is winning, top recognition in the country or internationally, that maybe a little bit more effort could get put into supporting those contractors that are doing that. And I feel, especially with myself, being a perennial contender for those NADRA awards, and winning those every year, that I'm doing something different and above and beyond what most of the guys are doing. And I realize that I don't have 5 crews, and I'm not spending $200,000 a year on flooring, and so I'm the smaller guy on their totem pole from a financial side, but from a prestige side, who are the guys that are getting the recognition and why?
It's like your awards or your builds are in their brochures. And so
literally, but
that should be worth something. And I think
they have an office somewhere with all of my awards hanging up on the wall.
Yeah.
And they're not even giving me a phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, like, at the very least, the entry fee into the awards should be paid for. Not your entry fee. Like, you have to enter to be in those categories. And it's like, listen, if you want your name on this, then you pay. I built the deck. You pay the $60 to enter it.
Yeah. Right? It's more than that, but that's what I was expecting when Trex said they were sponsoring me. There's like, you guys are going to at least cover my entry fee, right? Yep. But no, it wasn't that, and then of course, that was just my introduction into the NADRA awards when 2020 came in, and I knew that every project that I was putting in was going to win something. I was expecting like glory, I expected more than what I got, and shame on me for having those expectations, but I felt like I was doing something prestigious, and that there would be a little bit more recognition for that. And to be honest, TimberTech actually reached out and they're like, hey, we want to use your projects in some of our advertising. Can you tell us what colors the flooring you used on this project? It's like, yeah, I use this color and this color and this color. And they're like, oh, well, we're going to discontinue this color. So we can't even use your project in advertising because we can't showcase that color of our product. And So the funny story again, I found that out right after the 2020 awards, that they were discontinuing that. And sure enough, I had already used that color on 3 additional projects that were entered for this current NADRA award. So of course I wasn't going to get any kind of recognition from TimberTech from a marketing standpoint because the colors got discontinued.
Right.
Yeah. The unfortunate reality of it is that they're not really out there just to make guys like you feel better about yourself. Like they're in it 100% for what's in it for them.
True.
Yeah, that's the end of the story. And unfortunately, those NADRA awards are the height of their worth is at the award ceremony, and the couple days fall.
Well, no, from a local standpoint, it's still very prestigious to me and in my community.
Yeah.
From a national standpoint, it does nothing for me, because what am I going to, go from Colorado to Maine to build a deck? It's not happening. I'm not going to California to build a deck. So I could care less if people know about me around the country. But from a local standpoint, if there was some advertisement help and there was some, some kind of local marketing that would assist me and help me, certainly I'd be up for that. And I think that I had an expectation for that to happen, and there was some disappointment when it didn't, but I still feel like when other guys are chiming in, having those same expectations, that I can at least share my story with them, and let them know you're nobody. In the eyes of $1 billion company, you're nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is unfortunate because they build their reputation on the back of guys like you. Because let's be honest, if you took a deck board, whether it was Trex or AZEK, and you walked it out into a yard and laid it down on the grass, it is not valuable.
True.
Right? It's just a deck board. It's not valuable until somebody puts it together and makes it look cool. And it's almost like all of the companies forget that, like, well, my board is the best. It's like, no, your board's not the best. The guys using your board are the best in the industry. That's what makes your board the best.
Yeah. So. No, I agree. And, I got to give a shout out to those guys that are on social media that are capitalizing and marketing themselves correctly. I don't have the time for that. I don't have the opportunity to film. I mean, I have footage. I've got the last 3 years, probably 11 projects completely photographed, video time lapse from start to finish. My forest floor deck, I've got 700 hours of footage for that. But what do I do with it?
Dude, get it out there, man. Get it out there.
But I can't put all that stuff together. I don't have time for it. I don't, from a financial standpoint, because I only work on these big projects recently. You get done with them, there's no money left over. So I can't hire, a media tech to put all that stuff together for me. So, that's where maybe I'd think, one of these manufacturers would say, hey, we could help you out with a little bit of a budget here. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, and I think that's it, right? You start to have those relationships, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe you reach out to your supplier and you're like, I don't need dinner this month, and what I need is some help putting this video together. Can I send you some raw content and you build me a video?
True. And that footage isn't going anywhere. If I take that 700 hours of footage from my forest floor deck and give it to somebody, maybe they can put 70 TikToks together for me, or 110 Instagram posts. Because if you break it up into days, I could literally have a post every day, but I don't have time to put that stuff together for myself.
Well, at least you have it. Like, at least I wasn't aware that you even had that content. Like, that's huge. Like, maybe not the time now or the resources now, but maybe it will at some point, or
right.
Like when the 15-year-old starts working for you, like the 15-year-old no doubt has a really good handle on TikTok.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because my 11-year-old that designs all of my projects, she's going to be my media tech. She just needs to get a little bit better at it, but she makes her own TikToks and Instagram posts, and she's really good at it. And I even told her, hey, you're going to have to start helping dad out here, but I don't want to overwhelm her with so much footage.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. You set these personal goals. You seem to have achieved a lot of them so early, like to decide one year you're going to go in and win some awards and then did. Where do you go from here? Like, what's the next step for you?
It was all, of course, to build a reputation so that I could demand the price that I feel is right for my work. you know, if you can't back that up when you go in there and you're the highest bid and you're highest by 20%, you know, if you can't back up what you're going to do for the client, they're never going to bite on that dollar amount. And so I've been steadily able to increase the profitability of the company. Really, I put a lot into it into 2020, even to say that I took losses on projects just to make sure that they came out the way that they were intended to. And so from here on, I want to be able to use the reputation of the company to justify a price increase and work on some simpler projects, knowing that the quality, even though the design aspect might not be outlandish, the quality is still going to be absolutely perfect, and try and capitalize financially from that standpoint. So, you know, what do I do now? I've won 19 NADRA awards. What is it going to do for me to win even one more? You know,
this gets into a round number, first of all.
Yeah.
So,
well,
like,
you know, some guys absolutely capitalize off of one award. And other guys, I don't know how many guys have 19 or 20 awards. I know Deck South's got like 22. Kiefer Decks by Kiefer. That guy wins every wood deck every year, you know. So he's got a basement full of those. Dr. Decks, he's up there winning, you know, 20 plus. Deck Remodelers, I know who all these guys are. And, you know, hopefully they know who I am too. I mean, I got 20 awards, maybe not. You know, but again, what does one more award do for me? It doesn't really do anything but keep me relevant year after year.
Have you ever, like, normally people would have an answer to this question, but because you're so kind of like off the book, like you have your own creativity, do you find inspiration from any of those guys you just mentioned that have been doing this for longer and have been doing bigger stuff? And like, you're kind of a new guy on the deck scene a little bit, but do you find inspiration in them or no?
No, you know, and I follow all those guys too. You know, and it's keeping track of what they're doing, you know, because everybody's a one-upper and I'm the same way. I need to know what my competition's doing so that I know what to design above and beyond. But, you know, I'll watch a couple of videos from this guy or this guy. And they're not doing anything different than what I'm doing. You know, so that I can't really get inspiration from somebody that's not doing what I do. You know, so it's a challenge to come up with a new concept in the first place. And I draw my inspiration from different things that I see in life.
Yep. So where did your wildest ideas come from? We understand the tree slab deck or the forest floor deck now, but like you just said you find your inspiration from around your life. Do you go out intentionally searching for inspiration, or do you find it's just like you're driving down a road one day and you see a bridge that looks cool and you're like,
no, exactly. It could be just watching a show on Netflix and see something. You know, I follow a couple of different things on Instagram, and there's a lot of great architecture that people incorporate into houses. And there's a lot of cool stuff that if you, you know, just pay attention, you know, you can see. But I try to just take things that, I don't know, looked cool, but how can I make that into a deck, or how can I take that and turn it into something different? It's very random. It really is.
Have you thought about ways to capitalize on that? Have you thought about, like, you know how there's like songwriters and then singers, and like, so you're the designer, right? You drive around and you see a bridge and it turns into a deck for you. Have you thought about trying to be able to capitalize on that creative portion and then not actually build it? Or do you think you build it before? Okay.
Yes. So actually, I started another company that's specifically for design. I call it the Master Plan.
Awesome.
And so my goal is to design NADRA award-winning decks for anybody that wants the design. And again, it's the concept. You know, that's the challenging point of it. It's not just, you know, building something this size or this shape. It has to be a concept. It has to be, you know, a certain idea of what you're trying to pull off. But intentionally, I did that so that I can work with other builders and sell my designs to them.
I think that's so amazing.
I can't build forever, and I can't expand. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Yeah. I think that there are a lot of builders that are extremely talented builders, but they're not left brain guys. You know what I mean? They're not creative. They know how to build a deck and build it really well. But
yeah. If you guys know anybody, I got designs for sale left and right.
How often, like, I imagine you come up with some pretty crazy shit. how often does your first concept land with the customer, or do you find them kind of like wanting to mute it a bit on you and kind of be like, ah, it's cool, but like this is a little bit too crazy for my taste? Or do you find that they're all in with your first revision?
I do a lot of walking away.
Yeah.
Really?
I really do. Yeah, it's kind of my way or the highway. In fact, I give my clients zero opportunity to make changes, zero opportunity to make choices. I choose the shape, I choose the size, I choose the flooring, I choose the railing. They come out and see what we did without knowing what we're going to do. It's very strange to be a contractor and to be in this situation where my clients do not get to make any choices.
Right. So do you get some feedback from them? Not feedback. Do you get some input from them before you start the design process? You meet with them and be like, what kind of things are you looking for? What design styles do you prefer? Straight lines,
Right.
curves, that kind of thing, so that you can at least have a better shot of like
Yeah, usually, I'll go out and meet with a client and they're going to let me know that they want a deck and they want to entertain a certain amount of people. Sometimes they'll say that they want some curvature, some flow to it, which is really refreshing to hear because, again, I hate to build the 10 by 12 square. Whether they want a porch cover or fire feature, water elements, anything like that, those are just general requests. And it's my job as the designer to take their general requests and incorporate that into a main attraction, basically.
Right. Do you feel like you have a style? And it seems, because every one of your projects is so different, but if you look at a guy like, Premier Outdoor Living, you can tell one of his projects when you, like, without knowing who did it.
Yeah,
you can
you
look at a
just see
picture
it.
and be like,
Yeah.
designed by
Well,
Sean.
him and Deck Remodelers and Johnny Huck. I can look at all those guys and I know what their deck is when I look at it. But at the same time, just like Andy Henley told me with Hen House Decks, he's like, Dave, when I saw that NADRA video, I knew all the decks that belong to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I like to very colorful, very vivid, patchwork deck floorings, and so I think that kind of is my style. As much as I want to kind of get away from it, maybe I can be more creative with the design aspect of like the structural shape of the color patterns versus the randomness.
Yeah.
But I do believe that is a lot of my style. That plus throwing boulders into it,
Yeah. It's almost like your style is not really having a specific style.
Well, then that's true. And you look at it again with just, you say the originality of each project that I've won an award on is completely different from the previous project. And I think it's just the mindset of just trying to do something new every time.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have another question that popped in here from Instagram from French's Outdoor. Said, I heard through the grapevine that you've been able to bend Voyage. Is that true? If so, details, please.
Yes, I have. It's very, very challenging. It wants to bend by itself, and you never know which direction it wants to bend to. So when we use the heat con blankets to bend, and we pay attention, we keep opening the blankets to look at the board as we're heating it, because it's going to start to curl a certain direction. And depending on where, we'll have our heat blankets set so we can take our boards directly from the blankets onto the form. And sometimes we have to switch the direction of the board. We have to actually take it out of the blankets, turn it 180 degrees and put it back in to finish heating it, so that we're not fighting the direction of which way it wants to curl. But we've had boards up to 325 degrees before they even started to bend.
Wowzers.
First time we got to 325, I was looking at how hot I'm allowed to get the heat con blankets before failure. And I even ran and grabbed the fire extinguisher because I didn't know what flash point was, and is my insulation going to start on fire? But we've had success between 305 and 325 degrees with that. And the tightest that we've bent successfully was a 5 foot 9 inch radius.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, super tight.
That is tight for that. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Well, I bent, I've got an AZEK 6-inch board at 14.5 inch radius right now.
Wild.
Yeah.
So does the Deckorators Voyage stuff fail in the same way that others do? Like, does it bubble? Does it kink? Like, or is it
Crimples on the side? And
what does it do when it doesn't work?
No, it's very solid. It's a very strong board. And I got to be honest, if I wasn't using the TimberTech AZEK board, that's the board that I would be using. No, it does not. It has a very strong surface integrity, so you can heat it up to those really challenging temperatures, very hot, and there's no defects in it whatsoever.
So how when does it not work then? You pull it out and it's not hot enough,
just
so
not
it doesn't go,
malleable?
or like what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That it has to be extremely hot to be able to bend. Well, at least, when we're doing a 5'9" radius, there's no way I'm going to get it that tight without it being at 320 degrees.
Yeah.
Just not happening. But we've been able to get some really slight bends on it, right around like 275, 280. But no surface loss or integrity loss. I can tell you though, all the other composites, because I own another company called Colorado Board Benders, and I bend boards for all the deck builders around here in this area. There's a lot of guys selling curved decks, but they don't have the equipment and they don't have the knowledge to do it. We probably bend 100 to 120 boards a year for other contractors. So I'm very well versed in all the other manufacturers and the problems with each of those.
So would you go so far as to say that the Deckorators actually is easier? Like you got to get it hotter, tougher to work with, but there's not as much chance of of ruining a board?
No, it's very difficult to bend. See, like with a composite, you're going to heat it up for several hours and it's going to take several hours to cool down. But when you're in the middle of your bend, you might have 2 or 3 minutes to shape that board. You literally have 20 seconds with that Voyage line to get it bent before it cools down to a point where it's not moving.
Gotcha.
Oh boy.
And then, when I say that you heat it up and it starts to curl by itself, it doesn't always curl in an arch. Sometimes it curls in an S. And then you're kind of screwed because you're fighting it. And by the time you're on the S and you're trying to pull it back straight to go the other direction to bend, that it doesn't work. It kinks.
That's super strange. That's not what I would expect it to do, given the kind of like linear fiberness to it. You wouldn't think it would have a directional that it would pull, but it must just be, I guess, some slight density in that.
And I think that's what it is. I think it's the density and the way that they extrude. They do that pull extraction, instead of the push extrusion, and the way that it stretches the fibers internally in the board. I think that has a lot to do with which direction it wants to curl.
Right.
But you can't tell from the surface looking at it. You just have to heat it up and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Fun every time.
Yeah.
Little surprise every time, right?
Yeah.
That's hardly expensive.
Well, I've gone through thousands and thousands of dollars of boards in trial and error.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool stuff. I have not, I've heard some guys having a little bit of a success with it, like slight little bends here and there, but to do a 5'9" radius is, that's eye-opening. I didn't think that would be possible with that stuff.
Super challenging. We went through 6 boards to get one.
Yeah. And that was for your own job, or you were doing that for another contractor?
That was for another contractor, but I have to bill accordingly too. It's pretty expensive to get boards bent. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort to get a perfect radius and a perfect bend. You'll see some videos on YouTube or Instagram of guys pulling boards out of blankets and throwing it on a form. There's way more involved than that, trying to bend a board.
So what did you tell? Like he shows up and says, "I need Deckorators Voyage to a 5'9" radius," and like nobody's done it before. What did you say? Like,
actually, I sold the project as Vista, and I told him, because he wasn't specific about it, and I said, yeah, we're only been in the Vista line. We've never actually done the Voyage line, and this is the guy that wanted 5'9" radius. And when I showed up to pick up the boards, because they have to supply me with the material, I just bend it for the service. I saw that it was the Voyage line, and I said, challenge accepted, and so that the first Voyage board I bent was a 5'9" radius. But it took 6 boards, but he had to just keep supplying boards to me, at his cost. He's the one that sold the project, and he's the one that promised his client that he could get it done. He already had the whole deck built.
Just waiting for you to finish that one board.
Well, that's what happens to me is everybody that wants boards bent, they've already promised their client, they've already framed it, they've already put the flooring down, and then now they're trying to figure out how to get the boards bent for the border.
Boy, that's going to burn somebody pretty hard someday.
Yeah, I know a couple of guys that have lost their projects on what I have to charge.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Dave, I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to discuss today. I kind of ran through all the things I wanted to touch on, but is there anything that you wanted to put out there in the world?
No, man, this is a great opportunity. Thanks for having me on and giving me a chance to tell my story.
Yeah, I
That's a good
really
story.
appreciate it. We've been slacking on getting these interviews done, and I really enjoy doing them because I love learning about people's business, and I love that guys get exposure off this podcast. So in your case where you you feel a little bit under recognized in the industry, I hope that this helps in some capacity. And so
I appreciate it.
if you're a vendor out there listening and you haven't checked out LS Underground's work, you better, because he's doing some pretty crazy stuff. It's only a matter of time before this guy pops off and people snatch him up on sponsorships. So get on it. Thanks so much, Dave, for taking part in the podcast. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And that's it for us. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks for tuning in. Hit it, Kyler. I threw you under the bus there. Hey, Bryce walked away.
See you, Dave.
See you guys.
Thanks.
Take it easy.
You guys, thank you.
Hey, thank you for listening to the Ultimate Deck Podcast. Now you know what we're about. Check the site, come and shop. UltimateDeckShop.com. Hit us right away for sponsorships, or tell us if you want to collaborate. Let's go.